Hello, I'm Mark DeLuzio. Over the past century, our constitutional republic, grounded in the rule of law, has been transformed into a tyrannical democracy, orchestrated by unelected bureaucrats and globalists. The Constitution is now treated as a suggestion, not the law of the land. Welcome to the Constitution Solution, one podcast under God.
Hi, I'm Mark's co-host, Suzette Lawrence. Our intention is to explore the Constitution and discuss how our freedoms and constitutional rights are violated by those very politicians who took an oath on the Bible to uphold it. Learn how the Constitution is the solution to our country's problems. What do we need to do to restore our inalienable and enumerated rights? Class begins now.
Okay, welcome to episode 29, Constitution Solution, one podcast under God with Suzette Lawrence. And Suzette, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, and I'm really excited about the show today, Mark.
Why is that? I don't understand.
Well, we have the one and only Elsa Kurt on. And for those of you that are watching, you see her, of course, but for those that are just on audio, you'll hear her in a minute. So I'm really excited to have our very own Kamala impersonator on the show.
I would not be excited about that if that was true. But, well, I met Elsa virtually. I sent her an email a couple of weeks ago, and I said, "Geez, I really like what you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing," and all that good stuff, and kind of introduced myself to her. And she was kind enough to write me back, and we just kind of start this virtual relationship, and we texted, then we got on a video call, and to come to find out, she grew up very close to where I grew up in some place in the Northeast, and it was really weird how that all worked. And we know a lot of the same restaurants, so when I come up there next time, we're going to go to whatever restaurant we want. But there's some good ones up there. I miss New England cooking. And Elsa, you have this. So basically, you got a lot of titles, right? You're an author. You wrote so many books that you need to talk to us about. How many have you written so far?
Over 20. It's over 20. It
Yeah.
might be 25. So I just say I settle at over 20. So yeah.
You know, you've written a lot of books when you don't know the number, right? I wrote two.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm on
You
my
know
third.
exactly how many. Yeah.
It's really easy for me. I'm on my third. Okay, you're an actor. You're a podcast host, and I also see the word comedian on your as a moniker as well. And you have done, of course, you became famous for this Kamala Harris impersonations. We're not going to necessarily ask you to do that unless you want to. But you have some great conservative values, Christian values, which is phenomenal. You're a lifelong patriot. You are a police wife. You are married not only to a police professional, but he is also a Marine. I was going to say he was a Marine, but when you're a Marine,
Once a
you're
Marine,
always
always a
a
Marine.
Marine. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So God bless him, and love to
Thank
meet
you.
him someday.
Absolutely.
So your love for God, family, I'm reading off your bio here, country, and you turn that into energy in terms of your podcast and your show with your co-host, Clay Novak, who's also a Marine, correct?
Army
Oh, he's
Ranger.
Army.
Yeah.
Oh, he's Army. Okay. Does he get along with your husband?
Yes. Everybody
Okay.
gets along.
Okay. But the Elsa Kurt Show, which I was on last week, and I had a lot of fun doing that. You did a great job. And
Thank you.
so the Elsa Kurt Show is a podcast, and that I think is on all the standard channels, YouTube, Rumble,
Right.
Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that good stuff, right?
All
Like ours is. And you're also very involved in law enforcement and what we call LEO or LEOF, law enforcement officers. Help me out with the F. It's the enforcement families.
Yep.
And you know,
Law
that's the thing.
enforcement officer families. Yeah.
Families, you know, because that's one thing people don't realize with military and law enforcement firefighters that the family serves too, right?
Yeah.
And so you're really big into that, which I really do appreciate. But tell us how all this started. Oh, by the way, you've got a new podcast coming out. It's just starting up. It's called Coming Out Christian. So you could talk to us about that. You do have a book out. One of your 20 some odd books is Welcome to the Family, which is the life behind the thin blue line. And that has to be an unbelievable book to read. And I haven't read it yet, but I will. So anyway, Elsa, let me stop talking and why don't you start talking and tell us, how did all this start? How did it all start with you? And how did this all, you kind of took a lot of things and kind of, you know, pulled energy together to kind of do something that's making a difference. So
Yeah. Yeah.
back to
So,
you.
the first thing that's probably obvious, Mark and Suzette, is that I am never bored. I'm never bored. There's always something to do. And
Mhm.
I just have this belief that, and I think it resonates with everybody, that life is so short. You should be, doing all the things, and why just do one thing when you can do a whole bunch of them?
Mhm.
And it all started with the books. The books were the very first thing that I did in,
Okay.
I guess you'd call it like the public specter, so to speak. And Mark knows this already, but I am and always have been and probably always will be a lifelong introvert. So all of this is so out of the range of expected behavior from me, as far as like friends and family. They've been they're used to it all now, but in the beginning they were shocked by all this. Like, wait a minute, you're doing all of this? Like, you like to be you we call you the bubble girl. Like, you stay in your happy little bubble and you don't like to venture out of it, and here you are doing all these, incredibly public things where you're really putting yourself out there. And so in a weird way, the books was the easiest to start with, because you get to hide behind your laptop and some books, and at least that's what I thought. Then I quickly realized that you can't just, publish books, put them out on Amazon, and that's it, and be done. You actually have to publicize and market and go to book signing events and meet people. And so that brought me out of my shell, of course, quite a bit. And, I my whole adult life, I don't know about as a kid because I was a little on the wild side, but my whole adult life has spent with this purpose driven mentality. Like, you have to, we're here to serve a purpose. And my quest has, always been to know what that purpose is, or figure out what that purpose is. And I raised two daughters, two adult daughters now, of course. I was a stay-at-home mom. So for me, that was my purpose, my sole purpose during that time of life. And it was the greatest thing ever. Loved every single second of it. But then those kids had the nerve to grow up, and I had to figure out, so who am I now? What is my purpose now? What am I going to do? What impact can I make? And of course, the books started with the books. That was a goal and a dream that I wanted to accomplish. And as I started doing the book events, I was meeting all these people, and they would come up and they would say, and they'd have this like gleam in their eyes, like, and almost fearful in a way. And it wasn't about me. Like, I was all excited that I thought it was all about me. Like, oh, they're so excited to meet me. No, 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 no. They wanted to talk about their own dreams of writing a book and their fears of all of the things that come with that, the rejection, the criticism, all of the things. And that became a passion to help aspiring authors realize their dreams, so there's like another purpose. And it just kept evolving. And of course, as you mentioned, my husband's law enforcement career, I came into his life at a very tumultuous time during his police department. Was going through a lot of transition, a lot of big stuff. And of course, the world, our country, was in tremendous, actually at that point, not so bad across the country. That came later. But then, I kind of became an advocate and crusader for law enforcement, because, they're basically fighting with their hands tied behind their backs. They can't defend themselves publicly because they look like bullies. And and I realized that, and I know these people, and so many of us know these people. We know, to use the cliche, but it's so true, the hearts behind the badges. We know them, and to hear them being, just treated so horribly by the press and by politicians and by, their own communities in a lot of cases, was not only heartbreaking, it was infuriating. And I'm a scrapper, you know, I like to fight, and I came out swinging, and you know what I came out swinging with was facts and truth, and heart, of course. And I wanted, you know, the law enforcement community to know that you have a huge, massive support system despite what the world is telling you. And my husband coined it best. He said, "You know what?" He said, "You're a crusader. Like, you need to have something to fight for all the time." And that kind of leads us to today, that, you know, I love this country. Uh, I learned my love of country from immigrant grandparents and legal immigrant grandparents, let me clarify. And
There you
that's,
go. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
right. And man, oh man, that's really my foundation. So love of country, love of God came much later. That's a whole story for another day, probably. But yeah, you know, and this is where we're at in life, and we're gonna stand up for what we believe in. And you know, our country, man, our country right now is in desperate need of saving, really, and we can't be quiet about it. So that's my
Well,
story, like, in a
you know,
nutshell.
I
Very
would like to
long-winded.
have you back down the line about your Coming Out Christian podcast
Sure.
and what you just said about your love of God and how we both feel. You know, again,
Mhm.
our podcast is called Constitution Solution, one podcast under God. The reason I think, and I'm a good problem solver all my life, I've learned from the Japanese and my studies over there how to solve problems. And I really am good at getting to the root cause. And to me, when I look at all the calamity, we can say it's globalism, it's communism, it's Marxism, and all that, and it is. But I really think the one thing the communists want to do, and you and I talked about this a little bit the other day, is they take your God away. And once they
Yes.
take your God away, that's it. The game's over. Okay. And there's an all out assault on our God. And you saw it at the Olympics. You had a good podcast episode on that the other day with Clay Novak. It was a very good episode in terms of what you guys talked about. And you see it all over the place, right? Taking down crosses from mountains to honor our
Right.
veterans, taking, and the whole, matter of fact, Suzette and I did a thing about church and state, and Thomas
Mhm.
Jefferson writing to Danbury, Connecticut's Baptist at the time. And we explained all of that as far as how that got misconstrued by a Supreme Court judge who
Mhm.
was a KKK guy, okay, who hated
Oh,
Christians, okay,
wow.
so, and Catholics in particular. So, so this all-out assault, I'd love to have you back to talk about that and
Yeah.
about your relationship with God and also the whole coming out Christian to tie that all together. You know, the one thing I'll say to you, so you said you're a scrapper, but you got to be very careful when you
Yeah.
have an introverted scrapper. Watch
Yeah.
out.
Yes. Yes. Nothing is more dangerous than that, really, right? Because we don't even want to come out. Now you're making us come out, and now we got to fight you. Well, now we're doubly mad.
Oh my
We're just
God. Well,
now we're just
we have a lot of admiration for what you do, okay?
thanks.
And but when you think about that, you're an introvert, and it's a struggle to get out there and do that. You're not hiding behind a computer. Well, you are in a way, but you're out there
Okay.
publicly.
Yeah.
You're out there in the public. You're in the public eye, and all this, and so it's even more admirable that it's against your kind of, in some sense, your DNA. I'm an extrovert, so I don't care about. I talk to anybody, but but for you
Yeah.
to do that,
It's
it means that a lot more to me that you're passionate about what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you
You
very
know,
much. I appreciate that very
yeah.
much. Yeah, it's it just we're at a point now, and you know, there used to be a time when I started becoming vocal on social media and putting it out there, what I think, supporting Trump, number one. And that the second you say that, especially that, now it's a little bit different. Still get the same amount of hate from certain groups of people, but there's so much more support. Back in the beginning, in his first run, that was not the case. You say, you know, people were losing their jobs for supporting Trump, you know, and and a lot of things were going on then. And I didn't care because I wasn't going to lose my job. You know, nobody's taking, this is mine. I own all of it, good, bad, ugly, indifferent. It's all mine. You're not taking anything from me. You can't
Yep.
cancel me. So I
Yep.
didn't care. You know what I mean? So I was putting those opinions and beliefs and truths actually out there. And I would get messages from people, you know, private messages, and they would say, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know, I totally agree with you. I believe the same thing, but I can't say anything because of my friends or my family or my job." And you know, that's a big moment of pause when you hear somebody say that you cannot in America, you cannot express your opinions for fear of retribution. Wow. And back then, I would say, I understand, I get it, no problem. I'll be the voice. I don't care. Doesn't hurt me any. Um, Now I feel very, very differently about that. If I were to get those messages today, I would, you know, very kindly say, thank you. But you need to stand for something here, and you need to be a part of this change and use your voice, because this is why we're at where we're at. This is why this is happening. Too many people sat quietly, too many people that, you know, complicity, right? If you don't say something, you're complicit with it all. And if you're doing
That's
it out of,
absolutely. I'm with you on that, man. Yeah,
thank
you're
you.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so my answer would be very different today than it was, you know, a bunch of years ago for sure.
Well, you know, there's 6 million Jews right now that aren't here, or and their ancestors aren't here because
Yes,
people in Germany remain silent. Okay,
right.
they knew what was going on. Matter of fact, our
Yeah,
government remained silent. We knew what was going on. Okay,
yeah.
and
Perfect
Suzette, why don't
example.
we? Suzette, you and I talked about what reminds me of what Elsa is alluding to here is, you know, remaining silent versus not. Why don't you just give us a quick snapshot on what you and I talked about in one of our episodes of the risks that the founding fathers took?
Mm,
Oh, well, they immediately, I mean, they all risk their lives and their families and all of their financial interests were immediately at risk because King George wanted them each disemboweled. I mean, wasn't talking about just hanging them and killing them. He wanted them drawn and quartered, basically.
And that wasn't until their family, it happened to their family and children in front of them, then they're last. Yeah.
It's the tyrant always is reduced to violence. And when they want to take out a primary person, someone that attracts a lot of attention and someone that people can follow, and there aren't many. I mean, aren't that many leaders. You know, we learned from the business science, that about, 3 out of 100 maybe, can convince like 100 people to do something.
mm,
So that's a very small number. So I think the leadership, going after the leadership, and this is the other thing I think that's really important in terms of what you're talking about, with speaking up, speaking your voice, understanding. A lot of people don't take the time, and I'm not making excuses for them. I'm a news hound. So I'm always asking people, where do you get your news? Because I want to see, am I missing something? And, because there are some excellent independent news people. I don't get any corporate media unless the independent people that I listen to force me to listen to someone. I'm happy to say I never heard the word salad between the president and the vice president. I didn't hear it until Glenn Greenwald made me listen, and I was like, I'm writing in the comments.
I thought you were going to say until you met Elsa.
Oh, well, when I found Elsa, I couldn't believe it was real. Well, I tagged you to her. And I said,
I
I
know.
tagged you to that video. And I said, oh my gosh, you have to hear this. And he goes, oh, I've been following her for 2 years or something. It's like, how,
Oh, I love it.
but But I think having the power, the strength to like fully trust the information that you have, that's number one.
Right.
Because we don't want to, you don't want to listen to somebody like at Fox News and then think because that's the
Right.
conservative channel, didn't
Mhm.
So really being able to find the people that understand what's going on and have processed that and the impact that that's going to have on all of us, I think is very powerful. But at the same time, you almost have to be prepared to deprogram the general public because they've been brainwashed, which
Yes.
is why the Germans got away with what they're getting away with. It's all brainwashing. People have this idea, they think they're right, they're unwilling to investigate alternative perspectives. So these things happen, where tens of thousands of people, millions of people are killed. Nobody kills more people than their own government.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Mm,
That's true.
yeah.
Well, Elsa and I talked about we talked about this on her podcast last week, where we talked about being silenced. I was silenced for 2 years on LinkedIn, and I've had thousands and thousands and thousands of followers because in my industry I'm like a little rock star, okay, and
He's a big
globally.
rock star.
Well,
I
That would
love it.
be big rock star, not
I
but
little.
love it.
but the thing is, though, I've lost business because of my political beliefs. Okay,
Mhm.
and when I ran for Congress, they went back to 9 months to find something I posted, said it was misinformation. They canceled me, and it turned out that I was correct. And
Mhm.
now they're having to let people back on, so I got their graces to be back on again. Literally a week ago, I got back on. Um,
Wow.
and so,
That's
yeah,
great.
and everybody's coming back, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, I know what you're saying, Elsa, because I had people write to me. I
Mhm.
can't really say this publicly because I'll lose my contracts with the state or with the
Yeah.
city. Okay, and they're being
Right.
silenced, and this is not what this country was supposed to be. So I
Right.
applaud you and Clay and all that for speaking out and saying the things you're saying because and by the way, Suzette, I get my news from Elsa's podcast, so that's what I do. So just to let you
Number
know,
one news
uh,
source right
the
here.
number one news source. No,
No,
it's
but
really a great.
it's
People
like
should listen. Go ahead, Elsa.
oh no, I'm sorry. It's exactly like Suzette was saying that, you can't just trust one source. Like you can't just, if you're a conservative, you can't just watch Fox News and believe that you have all of the information. As painful as it is, yeah, you do have to watch and read what the other side is saying. And then, you have to find those independent platforms and journalists um and you have to weigh it all. Yes, it's work, it's challenging, it's frustrating, it's tiresome, it's all of the things, but it is so critically important to be informed. And I said to Mark in our previous conversation that I am in, and I love it, and I don't have any disappointment in this other than I wish I had it sooner. I'm in this constant game of like catch up and educating and learning. And your podcast is going to be such a huge help to me in that process because, I mentioned that I was a little bit of a slacker back in the day, in the high school days. And, now I'm at a point in life where I truly, and of course I've been in this point for a while now. I'm an old broad at this point. And high school was a very, very long time ago. But, all of the ththings that I maybe could have learned then, or though maybe not, public school system, I don't know so much anymore. But now it's like, yeah, I want all of the information. I want to know all of the things and understand them on a deeper level so that when I do speak to people, when I do respond to and I hate using the sides things, but this is where we're at. So I'm just, pardon the phrase out, the phraseology of it. But when the other side comes at me with their feelings and their emotions and their opinions, I want to be able to come back with hardcore facts and truths and corrections. And the challenge always for us is to do it with kindness and compassion even when they're coming at you, with their nastiness and vitriol and all of that. But yeah, I think it's important for us as, number one, as Christians, and then number two, as, conservatives, to come back at them with intelligence and grace. And that the second part is my personal biggest challenge, because I told you I'm a fighter. I want to come swinging. And yeah, so
Well,
it's a challenge.
I used to, I think the schools that my kids went to, in one of the high school that they went to is rated one of the highest, in the state,
Mhm.
and they, at least they think it is anyway. Um, but I had to deprogram my kids every week. I had a deprogramming session. I would sit them down. What do you guys learn? No, that's not. No, Lincoln didn't have slaves. No,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. And the stuff
Right.
that they put in their heads, and this is a long time ago. Okay, I
Yeah.
mean they graduated in 2000 and 2003 respectively. Okay,
Mm,
so this is not today. Okay,
right.
this was back then. And I
Yeah.
look at some of the stuff that I got taught in school. We never learned that Stalin killed 100 million people. He was our ally in World War II. Okay, Stalin
Mhm.
was an unbelievable tyrant, and not to minimize, as we said on your show, Hitler and what he did. Of course not. We're not going to
Right.
minimize that, but we never learned about the atrocities, how he starved people, and
Mhm.
how he just he was ruthless. And so all those degrees I have on the wall back there, I think they probably represent 5% of what I've learned in my life.
Mm,
It's all self-learning, it really
yeah.
is. And I'm an intellect in that regard. I'm high on the intellect skills. I love to learn. And so does
Mhm.
Suzette. And every time we do an episode on any aspect of the Constitution, okay, Suzette and I will talk about it and we think we know it pretty well. Then we
Right.
dive into it. And it's like our knowledge of that particular, whether it's an amendment or whatever it is, expands tenfold. And then
Mm,
and the things that and the doors it opens for us to say, oh, now I got to go look into that. Woody Wilson was a great one. Suzette did 2 episodes on him. We talked about him and how he was the father of the progressive movement. What is a progressive? That sounds really like a neat name, right? I'm progressive. I'm
right.
cutting edge. I'm cutting edge. I'm above the fray.
Which
What
is
that means is,
entirely,
yeah.
yeah, that's entirely their use of words. That's their hallmark, right?
It,
Their
it's
their
it,
use of words to make things sound
oh,
better than
yes.
what they are. That's the probably one of the most perfect examples right there. Progressive. What word? They sat around going, what are we gonna call this? What do we call it? You know?
Well, and
By the
progressing.
way, let's close the loop on progressive for a minute, Susan, before I let you go. Is a progressive is none other than somebody who has a disdain for our Constitution, and Woody Wilson was the father of that when he said the checks and balances of our government is a theory. No, it's not. It's the law. People say the Constitution is outdated. No, it's not a suggestion. It's the law. It's not a suggestion. Okay, whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. It's the
Well, you
law.
have
Is that guy?
exactly, Mark. You have to ask yourself, what are you progressing from?
No, you
What are you
don't.
progressing
I just
away?
say you don't like our
That,
country, and I'm not going to argue with you on it.
well,
You,
no, but that,
what I do
with
is,
that
in my
name,
mind, I do this. I a big red cross.
it's
You're
like,
done.
Woodrow Wilson is like the poster child for anti-American presidents. I
Right.
mean, he on the day he's inaugurated, he puts his hand on the Bible and he agrees to hold up, he swears an oath on the Bible to hold up the Constitution to protect us, the citizens, from the government, because governments are known for humans. If you're a human, your government is trying to either, as a rule, kill you or steal from you. And that is probably, there's not a better example of that than the young men in Ukraine who were hiding out so they are not thrown into a back of a van, given a week's worth of training, and sent to what they just most disgustingly call the meat grinder,
Mm,
where 100,000 people, they believe, in the last 2 months have been killed or wounded in Ukraine because they're not
Well, you know,
prepared for
the
war.
words, so the words that, you know, we talk about words, right? Entitlements.
Mhm.
You're not entitled to my money. Sorry.
Right.
Women's right to choose. Reproductive rights. You're killing something. How can it be
Right.
reproductive?
Yep.
Social security, that's one of my favorites. They got the social part right because it is socialism, okay?
Mhm.
Affordable Care Act.
Mm,
Really? And
mhm.
this my all-time favorite is earned income credit because if you don't work, you get a check from the government. It's earned income credit. Okay. So these words,
Ironic.
you're absolutely right. Let me ask you, so was there any like point in time, Elsa, where it just like, hey, I got to do something? Or I know you said, okay, you raise your children, and by the way, stay home mom,
Mhm.
unbelievably admirable that you did that. Okay. I
Loved
know
it.
people would look down on you to do
Yep.
that to
Oh
them.
yeah. Right to my
Okay.
face.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
That is,
And God bless you.
I think that's horrible.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm a nurse and a nurse midwife by profession. I haven't worked as a midwife since my last delivery was in 98, April 12th, 1998. So it's
Mm.
been a while
Remember the
since I
date.
delivered a baby. But I just was totally clueless
Mhm.
that anyone would take the attack on mothers seriously, like that there's something wrong with staying
Right.
home and being married, having a family, and having your husband take care of the family, and mommy
Mhm.
gets to stay home and be a mother and do probably the most important, what I would guess would be the most important work of her life.
Right.
I
Yeah. Oh,
mean,
there's
Yeah.
no question.
every
Well, look,
woman,
we all know though, Suzette, we talked about it. The Marxist agenda, the attack on God, the attack on our
Mhm.
family, controlling education, graduated income taxes, we talked about in your show, all those tenets of Marxism. Yeah, there you go. The Communist Manifesto.
There
It's
it
all in
is.
there. The playbook's
Mhm.
in there. And the attack
Yeah.
on mothers and on families is clear. It's not even a mystery to me why all
Right.
this is going on. But, you know, so after you had your children and they kind of, you know, grew up, and as you said, mine grew up too, by the way. Uh,
Nerve.
it happens. I don't know. Uh,
It does.
I wish they were back, but as little kids. But you know, did something like overnight just click on you, or did you have this burden of desire all along? Like, kind of, how did that all come to be?
It wasn't, there wasn't a light bulb moment.
Okay.
I credit my husband really with so much of my emotional growth, intellectual growth, freedom to grow. This is a
Mhm.
guy who, one of my favorite early stories of my journey, my career journey, was a sitting over dinner one night and having one of those, life conversations that you have when you had a couple of drinks and you're just talking about everything. And he asked the question, if there's, something, what haven't you done that you wish you had done or that you wish you could do? And at that point I had not written any books yet. And I said, well, and I was embarrassed to say it because it was just, so far out of the realm of things. I said, well, I always wanted to write a book. I always wanted to be an author. I thought I was going to be an author. And I remember to this day, he just leaned forward and he's got this adorable little eyebrow thing he does. And he looked at me and he says, so do it, write a book, go for it. And, it's the weirdest thing. It's not that I needed his permission to write a book, but it was kind of this thing where you have somebody, in your corner who is rooting for you and cheering you on and saying, you can do anything. You can do anything. And I'm the person in your life that's like right here beside you, giving you those wings to, taking kind of the wraps off of your wings for you and saying,
He gave
just
you
go.
encouragement, right? It really wasn't permission, I would
Yeah,
guess. It was encouragement. So, okay,
absolutely.
now that you said, okay, I'm going to do that, what was your first book, and what was the thought process that went into what you were going to write about?
So I took the easiest route, what I considered the easiest route. It was like the baby route, basically. I wrote a children's book. It was just a simple very, very simple, I think adorable little book called Look Outside Your Window. I'm a nature geek. I can spend all my days, all my time outside. I'd probably live in the woods if I could. And yeah, it was just this simple little book. And I thought that was going to be it. I'm like, oh, okay, I got it out of my system now. I'm good. I'm happy. And honestly, within like 2 weeks, I'm like, I have another idea for a book. And it just snowballed. And my poor
Really?
husband, it
Really?
went like wildfire. And I spent about 7 years basically writing nonstop. And I went from children's book. I grew up with my books. I started writing children's books. And then I moved into young adult. And then I had for the longest, well, the young adult book, that story, I had written fragments of it for probably 20 years. And I finally sat down and wrote the whole darn thing.
Really?
Went through a lot of revisions. It was not good. It was not good. It simply wasn't. And I had the audacity to think that it was and publish it. It's since been revised. Love this story. Uh, then I moved into like women's contemporary fiction. And yeah, I mean, it's started just this wildfire that I certainly didn't see coming, and he didn't see coming, but he cheered it on the entire way. And and then as things evolved, of course, TikTok came along. We're kind of jumping chapters, but we have to because it's so crazy. TikTok came along, pandemic came along, and I decided to make like one video. It was like this really weird little evolution, and then another, and then another. And then I got addicted to creating content and getting more um free with what I created, and really putting my opinions out there in the form of comedy sketches and all of that stuff, and things started taking off. And my husband, and of course, and all of that, part of that was being a very vocal law enforcement spouse. So a lot of those early skits are actually police wife stuff, like just comedic
Cool.
things that we experience as law enforcement wives. And a
Sure.
lot of that is dealing with the public. And of course, that invites, we're talking about social media, you know what it's like on there. People will, say anything about anything and they don't think you're human. And got a lot of negativity, a lot of very hostile, rude, crude, vulgar, offensive, mean, threatening comments on those videos, just for people who don't like law enforcement and don't like anybody associated with it. And that was probably one of the greatest things that ever happened to me, because I very, very quickly realized about myself that, man, oh man, do I have a thick skin. They did not phase me at all. And it actually was encouragement, like, oh, this makes you angry. This bothers you. Now I have to do more. Now I
Well,
have to do 10 more.
you know what though, so I'm friends with Paul Gosar, who's a congressman here in Arizona. He's actually one of the more conservative in Congress. And the Cheney organization have gone after him millions of dollars. They try to split up his family. They turned his siblings against him. They did a good job at that. But they tried to break up his kids and his family and his wife, and that didn't happen. But I told Paul, I said, when they're coming after you like that, you're doing the right thing. Okay.
Yes.
And I said that to Sheriff Joe. I'm good friends with Sheriff Joe Arpaio, very good friends with him. And when they came after him over the birth certificate thing, which, by the way, if you ever see the evidence that he showed me, it's unquestionable that that birth certificate is a forgery. Okay. Now, it's not saying where he was born. He wasn't born here. He was born here. All it's saying is the one he presented was a forgery. But I told him, I said, and Soros threw $2.5 million against his in 2016, $2.5 million against Sheriff Joe Arpaio with his opponent to get him out. Okay, and that's the deep state that we talk about, right? And that's
Mhm.
only the surface of the deep state. But so you're doing the right thing when they're coming after you, and that's how I kind of look at it too. And then people say, well, geez, I lost friends and I lost family, and were they really friends?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Were they really?
But that's
Because you have
it,
a different opinion, and
Right.
so
right?
I don't know. I look at that, and the other thing I want to say about enforcement, especially your husband, and Sheriff Joe taught me this. He said, Mark, if I was appointed, I'd never be able to do the things I was able to do because
Mm,
the pink shorts and the tent cities and all that stuff, right? He became
Right.
famous for it. And even the birth certificate, they would have told him to stand down. But he's
Mhm.
elected. Okay. He's an elected official and he got elected for
Mhm.
24 years straight. If he was, he said, I wouldn't have lasted the first 2 years. I would have been fired. Okay.
Right.
So the other difficulty that people don't understand about municipal, in particular, and state police and law enforcement is they work for somebody who controls their destiny from their career to their paycheck and everything else, right? And that
Right.
could be lost overnight. And so not only are they facing the dangers and all the other things that we know law enforcement faces, the scrutiny, the public
Mhm.
image, and all that stuff, they're facing career termination
Right.
because they are not elected. They've got
Mhm.
somebody controlling the purse strings. That's another aspect of law enforcement that I don't think a lot of people think about.
Right. You're right. You're right. Absolutely true. Yeah, the burden of expectation from the public is insane, really, too. And just to add another layer of the expectations of law enforcement, they want them to be psychologists, and they want them to wear many, many hats. And if they do what the public deems as wrong, even though it's actually right, that it's wrong because the public said so, so you're
Yeah,
convicted already,
yeah. Oh yeah.
in the court of public opinion, based off of oftentimes like a 6-second clip of an incident that went on for 15 minutes. You know what I mean? It's very selective.
I cannot
And-
believe how many F. Lee Baileys we created, how many medical examiners we created based on watching the 10-second video, right? It's
right,
amazing.
right.
Everybody's an expert. Well,
They're all
and the other,
experts. Yes.
well, I'll tell you, and so when I was, in grade school, and I was a class clown. I know it's hard to believe, but and I would come home quite frequently with notes from the teacher. Okay. Now, here's a conversation, Elsa, that never happened in my household. My father never said to me, Mark, tell me your side of the story. That never
Mm,
happened. Okay.
no,
My
no.
father was judge, jury, and executioner. Okay.
Yep.
Today, different game. And I think you know the school my wife taught at.
Hmm.
She took a paper away from a kid that was cheating. Okay.
Hmm.
And the father called up at night and said, Hey, I understand you gave Johnny a zero. That was their policy. He goes, yeah, well, he's cheating. Well, what's your proof? Well, I saw him do it. Yeah, but you don't have proof. You just saw him. That's your word against his. Johnny doesn't lie.
Well,
Well,
she's the
Mm,
teacher.
yeah.
yeah,
Right.
she's the
Right.
teacher. Yeah, and
She's the
I said,
teacher. It doesn't matter what Johnny said.
well,
Yeah.
well,
Like, end
well,
of story.
he was arguing with her because Johnny,
Yeah.
of course, doesn't lie and he doesn't cheat, right? So my wife finally said to him, don't you think it's time you stop being his attorney and start being his father? Right?
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice. I
Oh yeah. My
love it.
wife,
I love
she
it.
also she also told the class everybody's going to get a C. They all were up on socialism, right? All right, everybody's. I'm not going to get into Harvard. I'm not going to get into. I'm not going to get the honor roll if I get a C. I can't get a C in this class, And the other kids are like, "Yeah, C, great, because I'm going to work my ass off to get a D." Okay,
Right.
and
That is a
and she no,
perfect
no,
lesson right there.
everybody's going to get a C. Okay,
Mhm.
and I mean, she didn't follow through with that, but she was just, she told the class that. But the thing is, I remember the respect we have for teachers. I remember one time, it was in fifth or sixth grade. The teacher's door opened and we saw Mrs. Zimmerman eating a sandwich. And we talked about it for a week. We didn't think they ate. We thought we
That's so
honestly
funny.
thought, I'm serious. We thought that
Yeah.
these teachers were sub or superhuman. Okay. Did you see Miss? Hey, do you think she brushes her teeth? Does she go to the bathroom? That's how we revered these teachers back then. Okay.
Sure.
And not today, not today. And it's
No,
amazing.
no.
And a lot of that has to do with the upbringing. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
you
Oh,
know.
absolutely. Oh, there's no question about it. We're in a society that is raising children to believe that they are the center of the universe, that they are perfect just the way that they are,
Yeah.
that they should get a participation award. You get rewarded for showing up, for doing what you are supposed to do. You get a reward for that. And, I mean, really, like, the biggest thing though is this whole mentality. Like, it drives me nuts, this whole you're perfect, that just the way that you are. And, believing that all the world's problems, or all a child's problems, or even a young adult, is based because they have low self-esteem. No, BS. You have way too high self-esteem. Like, you think way too much of yourself. And and of course, the real root of everything is, as we all know, the step and move away from God, really, in the homes, in school, everywhere.
That's the issue.
God is not this, right? He is not the central figure, and he should be. And and if anybody wants to dispute, you could dispute that all day long. But my only rebuttal to that is, take a look around. Take a look around. Look at our country right now. Look what's happening. And you're going to tell me that taking God out of everything has nothing to do with it? I got a bridge to sell you, got some swampland.
I was in a huge supermarket with my wife one day, right? I think it was a Walmart supermarket. It was one of the super duper ones.
Oh, yeah.
And it just hit me. Okay, I was walking through with her and pushing the carriage, and I go, Diane, stop. I said, look around. What do you see? She goes, what are you talking about? She's looking up in the sky. And I said, no, no, look at what we have here. You want paper towels? Go to aisle
Mhm.
7. They got 8 different brands. Meat? What do you want?
Yeah,
Cereal? The whole aisle full of cereal. Okay. This is what capitalism has done, that we decry capitalism. Okay.
right,
This is what it's done. We at the you grab it off the shelf. You can now order it on your phone.
right.
Can you imagine how much we take for granted? And as you and I talked about, I've been to third world countries. I saw the squalor in this country, in this world, and we just don't know, to your point, Elsa, how good we have it here. And
Yeah.
it's just unbelievable how ignorant we are in that regard. So it's mind-boggling to me. And I don't know. I just look at what we have and what the founders gave us and how
Right.
we're squandering it for personal gain. That's what this is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so great. And I don't mean this to put down public school teachers. It's the system and some teachers. I know,
Oh yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
believe with my whole heart there are so many wonderful, amazing teachers out there. I was blessed to have some. I was also blessed to have some not so great teachers who gave me valuable life lessons as well.
Bingo.
Um, yeah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah.
the bad ones, in fact, the one of my worst teacher relationship experiences, actually, I credit her with my becoming involved or educated about politics, because she was a raging liberal Democrat. And I could care less at that age. Again, I'll remind you, I was a delinquent, did not care about world events, didn't care about anything but my social life, honestly.
You were
And
normal.
yeah, totally normal,
Mm.
really. And her class, it was like a social studies class, and it was during the Bush Dukakis election cycle. And she wanted everyone to say who, if they could vote, who would they vote for? And everyone who said Dukakis, she gave them a big thumbs up, literally clapped for them and said, "Good job. That's right. I'm so proud of you." So what did everybody do? They didn't care either any more than I did. And they're like, Dukakis, I guess, big applause, great grade you're going to get for that. The little rebel in me looked around like a bunch of lemmings. I didn't even know that word at the time, but that's what I would call them now. I'm not gonna say that. I have to do the exact opposite of what everybody else is doing. And of course I said, "Oh, I would definitely vote for Bush." And she literally booed me. A grown adult booing a child, by the way, the absurdity. And made me dig my heels in deeper and start learning about the issues that were of the time. And I had some really great friends at the time, where they're also delinquents, but very smart delinquents, who knew, and they taught me about Reagan and all of these things. And I'm like, okay, all right. And I was able to come back with some articulate intelligent responses to her in class. She did not like
Nice.
that.
Oh,
But
sure, sure.
that started the whole ball rolling for me. Like that was the moment where I went, I'm a Republican. Okay, cool.
Well,
So that was
if
the
you think about Jesus's disciples, they were all delinquents. Okay,
yes, they
they were
absolutely
thieves, they
were.
were criminals. But it's funny. I hear your story here, and I got to believe that's the hand of God working.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I look back on my life every day at some point. I think about the path and the journey and
Mhm.
the what seemed like missteps and mistakes and bad choices and all of those things, and including my being a bit of a delinquent in high school. I look at all of these things, and like you just said, like that was the hand of God saying, just literally nudging me out of the way and saying, no, 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 that's not for you. And
Well,
I'm so grateful.
your rebellious child in you at that time
Mhm.
was meant to be because
Yeah.
when I asked the question early on, hey, what got you started on all this, right?
Hmm.
That sounds to me like that might have been the watershed moment that really got you in a mindset. First, I'm going to prove them wrong. I don't give a damn what the answer is. I'm going to prove them wrong. But then you find out, hey,
Yeah.
these answers make a lot of sense.
Hmm.
That's what's going on, right? And that's
Yeah.
phenomenal. That's phenomenal. We all
Thank
have
you.
that, right? Somewhere along the line,
Wonderful.
And I don't know. We all have those moments in our lives that were like, that really were remarkable. That yes,
Yeah, it always is that we do live our lives in moments, don't we? Where something happens and you snap out of it.
Yeah.
That reality is one of the reasons that I rarely engage um the opposition. And the reason is because they've been brainwashed.
Yeah.
And when you've been brainwashed, deprogramming someone is a real art. And you don't necessarily want to be around the person. I call it getting red pilled, right? I got red pilled
Right.
in 98.
Mhm.
It was a very difficult 3 years, very difficult. I was a very, very angry woman. Everything I had done up until that point was because I thought things were a certain way. And then I realized, things were not that way at all. That there was a smoke screen, which I got to see, and then there was the truth.
mhm.
And, when when you realize that, like, I remember thinking, like, friends of mine that, like, during the whole, what I'll call the mess, what we just went through in 2020 and 21 and 22 with the mandates and all of that. I remember thinking how absolutely terrifying it was to have starlets come on TV and online and start giving medical advice, that nobody really got that. Like, you're not allowed to do that. Doctors give medical advice, like, and preferably practicing physicians that have experience in that area,
What about
not just some
when
paid.
congressmen have actors come in who played a role of some professional testify in front of Congress? What? Why aren't we having the actual person come in? It's like
What now? I don't, what,
it's unbelievable. It's
I missed
unbelievable.
this story. What happened?
Oh no, they've had actors in front, like for example, Brockovich. They had what's her name that played as the actress. They had all these actresses and actors that came in as spokespeople for whatever cause their movie was about. Okay,
Mhm.
as if they're the
Oh,
experts. Okay, and it's mind-boggling how that works, right? And
Right.
people would ask me when I ran for Congress, Mark, should we get vaccinated? I go, why the hell are you asking a politician to get medical advice? My initials are MD, okay, but that's about it. Okay. I have my view on the vaccination. Okay. And
Mhm.
if you want to know, I didn't get vaccinated, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't. I want you to make that
Right.
decision. What I will fight for is the government not making that decision for you. And I will
Yes.
fight for the fact that an employer can't discriminate against you just like they can against race or anything else. That's I'm going to fight for. Okay, and the government has no right in telling you. I drove around Arizona here, and it drove me nuts big billboards that would say, "Have you gotten vaccinated today?" These are government billboards, right? "Have you gotten vaccinated today? Call 1-800," and the government's telling people to get vaccinated. It's like, what the hell's wrong with this? I mean, it's
Well,
unbelievable.
there's a lot wrong. If you think government schools are bad, government medicine is deadly.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
mean,
well, I've done a
it
lot of
really
work with the
is. It
VA.
kills a
Yeah,
lot of, it
yeah, they
kills
have
a lot
killed.
of people.
Yes, they
And
have. Yes, they have.
there's a woman that had a really cool, her name is Catherine Austin Fitz, one of my heroes, and she has a really cool website called Solari, SOLARI.com. And you can go to Solari.com, and she was actually the HUD person for what I call King George the First, Bush one. So there's
By the
King
way,
George the First, and then
another unconstitutional agency. But I digress. So.
so there's King George the First, and then there's George the Lesser. That's how I refer to these two.
That's pretty funny.
And so Catherine Austin Fitz had this really cool affidavit that you could print off of her website. And there was one for students, there was one for, employees that they could take to their employer. And it basically said, I don't want to take this shot, but if you're going to make me take the shot to keep my job or to stay in school, then I need you to sign this, because if something happens to me, it's the estimates for my lifelong care are around $5 million. So you need to take, if you trust this enough that you're willing to tell me to do it, then you need to take personal responsibility for taking care of me. Not the
I
school
love that.
system, but you personally. This is going to be on you. People took those in, and everybody got a pass. It wasn't well publicized. This wasn't something that was,
That's cool.
the guy is confronted with it in that moment, or the woman, and she's looking at it and she's reading it, and she's maybe getting a clue, starting to wonder, like, who's going to take care of her? Because a lot of these people think
we didn't push
vaccines are
back
safe.
enough like that, Suzette. That's the kind of thing that we didn't do. We allowed these
Resist.
executive orders, which are not law, to take effect.
Right.
But I have a question for you. So we all know that the Kamala Harris impressions that you do. And by the way, I saw you donning a new wig now.
Yes.
The
Oh my
Kamala
gosh.
wig. Oh my God.
It's
And I
so
hope,
good. It's
It's
yeah,
so
crazy.
good. It's
yeah.
so
Crazy.
good,
But
Elsa.
how did Kamala come along? What happened with that? Like, how did that start? I mean, were you just sitting there at breakfast one day and you said, "Hey, I think I'm going to do Kamala," or how did that all kind of? What's the origin of that?
I tell you what, I can't pinpoint the exact moment or instance where it happened. What I do remember is I had made, quite a few videos at that point before it started regarding Kamala and her ineptitude, essentially, and her, idiocy, namely, the biggest one. I think my first like mega viral video was the one with her with the electric car, and she's like plugging it in and holding the plug in, and she's saying stupid things like, and there's no fumes. And it's like beyond absurd. And the video is basically me making fun of her. It's like the back and forth. And I think it was in that video that somebody had commented, you kind of sound like her. I bet you could imitate her. I'd love to see that. And I remember like reading it, whether it was that video, maybe it was a different one. I'm honestly not sure. But I saw that comment somewhere and I went, okay, I'll give it a try. Now, personally, I think my earliest ones that like I really cringe, like I want to take them down so bad, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to keep them up there because I think they are really awful. It's evolved quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of like how it started. And then those videos were doing really well. And I saw it as an opportunity to use these word salads, use these absurdities to point out how unqualified she is for this job. and how useless she is in her role. I mean, she does nothing. And I thought to myself, well, I love comedy. I literally only watch educational and comedy things and read. It's either funny or educational, nothing in between, nothing scary, nothing, no suspense, nothing. So I'm like, well, comedy seems to be my lane. It's at the very least my happy place. So if I can use comedy to drive these points across to people who maybe otherwise wouldn't want to hear it, if I come at you in that newsy kind of way and say, so here are the things that Kamala did or is doing, and you have to, blah, blah, blah. People are like, yeah, whatever. People obviously that I'm talking about who are fans of hers or supporters of hers. Um, but if I make you laugh, it might also make you think a little bit. So that's been like the goal and the hope with
Well,
it
I
that
think
that
that's a
can
really
happen.
nice approach because I think, a lot of times just mocking the obvious and
Hmm.
pointing humor at it does serve a purpose in that regard. And it kind of keeps you a little bit, above the fray. But, to me, good comedy, and I love comedy too. And I'm going to ask you next who your favorite comedians are, but good comedy, the best comedy, in my opinion, is comedy that's baked in some semblance of truth.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I mean
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
really is like George Carlin was a master at it.
Right.
And I didn't always agree with some of his social stances. Oh, we got
Sure.
Suzette back. There you are.
There she is.
We
I'm
lost you for
back.
a minute, but
When I was
but
a kid, I,
No, we were just talking about comedy and how
yeah, I was
comedy is.
listening.
Oh, you were okay. We lost you there for a minute. So I just want to read something I got from a fortune cookie. This is a
Mhm.
real live, well, live fortune cookie. Okay, and I saved it. I'll send it to you. The only thing we know for sure about future developments is that they will develop. Okay,
Are you
so
sure Kamala didn't write that?
I think Kamala
I think
worked for a
she
fortune
did.
cookie
I think
company
she
before she
did.
became, yeah, yeah.
I
When
think
we
that's
get her out of
exciting.
office, that's going to be her next career when we get her out of office,
I
right?
was
That
saying
she's going
that
to write fortune cookies.
we got Chinese takeout, and I opened this up, and I said, Diane, you're not gonna believe this. You're not gonna believe this. Listen to this. I said, and I read it. This is a Kamala fortune cookie.
Yeah.
And but I was going to ask you, who are your favorite comedians? Who do you follow?
Gosh, that's a really excellent question. So I do this, I don't know if it's a weird thing. I'm sure other people in my lane do the same thing. And I did this also as an author. I try not to watch or read things that are in my lane because I'm so worried about being influenced by them and basically stealing other people's content.
Oh,
You know what I
cool.
mean? Or
Yeah, yeah.
style. Um, so I don't watch a lot of other comics, people who do what I do, or humorists. Somebody actually put it nicely. A friend reached out, somebody who's now a friend. He's a comedian. He's an actual comedian, a real one. Does stage comedy and everything. Tom Mabe, you got to go check him out. He's a great guy. But he reached out and he said, he says, are you a comic? Like, do you do comedy? Do you stand up? I said, oh gosh, no. I do things out of my house. That's basically it, or my car sometimes. And I said, I don't think that I'm a comedian. He says, oh, you're a humorist. You're a humorist. Like you're a satirist. That's like what you do. That's your lane. I'm like, okay, yes, that's how I will describe myself going forth. What's his name? Nate Ergatz? Now, how do you pronounce his last name? There's a guy, he's really terrific. See, I mean, that's how bad I am. I don't even know their names, and I love their comedy. But yeah, they're kind of ish in my lane, just so much better. They're amazing. Yeah.
Oh,
There's a lot of good
don't
ones out
knock
there.
yourself down. Well, my favorite comedian right now is Sebastian Maniscalco, and believe it or not, I'm going to see him next week, and he's coming to Phoenix. So
That's so
Diane
cool.
bought me tickets for our 44th anniversary. She bought me tickets
Oh,
because she knows we saw him in Vegas once, and we were sitting in the front row. And she said, you don't want to sit in the front row. And I said, nah, he doesn't pick on. I got all his videos. He doesn't pick on anybody, right? Sure enough, he picked on us. Yeah. Oh, look at the
That's
two.
awesome.
Look at the two senior citizens. They're all dressed up. What do you thought? You're going to see Frankie? Did you get comped? He says, Then he started talking to us about, who spends more money. We point to each other. One of the big, the big screens. People are
That's so
cracking up.
funny.
He was really good. But
That's
I like
awesome.
his because he does
I
the
love
same thing. He has a lot of human, real life humor. But
Hmm.
I my favorite skit of his is where he talks about everybody getting quiet and hiding when someone rings the doorbell.
oh, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal.
Like,
Yeah.
That's so
Oh,
relatable. It's
oh,
so
that's
the
it.
relatable.
door.
Well, it tells you how times have changed, though, right? I mean, when the
Yeah.
phone would ring, everybody runs to the phone. I was like, oh, damn, the phone's ringing. The
When,
door, oh,
yeah,
hide,
like
everybody.
his mother
Shut
would
up, the
bring out,
light.
he gets into the whole thing about how his mother would bring out the Entenmann's,
Yeah, yeah.
right,
Oh
for
And it was
gosh, that's
company
so
and
funny.
you
make it
over
like
there, yeah.
he used to like welcome company in.
Oh, he's
Now,
Hmm.
he's he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. Now, let me ask you, would you ever do stand up?
Yes, yes, to be able to check it off the bucket list, and mainly because the idea terrifies me. So that means that if the opportunity came up, that I would say yes before I had time to think about it. So yeah, I would do it just to get it done.
So that's on your bucket list.
I think it kind of is.
Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I think
Do you know?
so.
Do you know who Kevin Jackson is? I don't know if you know who Kevin Jackson is. He's a friend of mine.
I don't think
He
so.
was on Fox News for the longest time on Hannity. He would come. He's a comedian. He does
Mm,
in politically incorrect humor, and
okay.
he got kicked off of Hannity because he tweeted that the woman who was going after Judge Kavanaugh
Kavanaugh?
was a skank.
Oh,
And then Fox News kicked him off, and he couldn't. He was Facebook
oops.
canceled him. But he lives here, and he's a friend of mine. Matter of fact, I'm gonna try to get him on the show.
Nice.
You'd like Kevin. Kevin's pretty cool. Um, but um, but what I was
I would
gonna
love,
say
I'll
about
tell you what my kind of like stage type dream would be. So if anybody's listening to see what I would want to do, I would want to do like a kind of like almost like a podcast crossed with a talk show type stage thing.
ah
You know what I mean? Like I'd
ah.
love to have like guests come up and we can just kind of go back and forth and just have fun with the stuff and things. Like that would be my ideal setting
But you
because
wouldn't
like
want it
there's
scripted then, right? You
comfort.
would you want it? Would you want it just like kind of free fall type thing?
Yeah,
Or
I mean, yeah,
yeah,
maybe. Yeah, I'm receptive. Let's put it that way. Whatever he has planned for me, that's what I'll do. That's
there's a
my
lot of
that's my take on
famous
it.
performers like Steely Dan. What's his name? Remember his name now, but
Megan?
he Hagen, yeah, he was so stage fright. They didn't perform for 20 years. They just
Wow.
did albums. There are a lot of famous performers who are stage fright that
Mm,
do perform, but they're absolutely stage fright to getting on stage.
yeah.
But they do it. So it's interesting being an introvert and just having stage fright. Maybe that ties into it. I don't know, but
Yeah, it probably does. I mean, you kind of, when I do my stuff, you really are you're almost it's you, but it's also a persona. It's like both. You just go into a totally different mindset. The at-home Elsa and the on-screen Elsa are exactly the same and also entirely different. And I know that makes no sense whatsoever, but
I hear you.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
right. It's just a thing, a switch. And I've heard this from other performers, actors, entertainers, people in this lane. They all kind of say the same thing. Like there's this switch that flips and it's just different. Yeah,
And you get
it's
into
very hard to
yeah,
explain.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, comedy. All the jokes I tell. Suzette knows I tell a lot of jokes. They're not mine. Most I heard them somewhere else, right? Except for I did make
Mm,
up one joke. To my credit, I made up
yeah.
one, and
Are
I
you
have
gonna
a
share it?
goal. Well, I think I told you. Maybe I did or didn't. I have a goal to make one stranger laugh a day. Okay,
Mm,
drives my wife nuts. Right, when we're out in the mall somewhere, and I'll make somebody laugh. That's my goal. I want to make somebody, especially people who have public facing jobs. They get crapped on all the time.
mm,
The only time people talk to them is when something goes wrong. And so here's my joke. I get on an airline and I'll say to the flight attendant, by the way, to hear all the American airline flight attendants calling sick today. No, what happened? They had cabin fever.
That's
I mean, that
cute.
is
I
such a
like that.
dad joke, right? Such a
I
corny,
like that.
but it makes them
No,
laugh.
it's
I made that up. That's the
very
only
funny.
joke I
Now,
ever
I
made up.
think that was a very good joke. I love dad jokes. I love like silly, goofy humor like that. I love that. I think it's great.
Well,
comedy
I'm a king of dad jokes. Just as my grandkids. So,
comedy is a direct link to intelligence.
Mm,
There are no dumb, funny people.
well, like me, it's an
All
exception.
the funny people are smart. And if they try to
Oh,
be funny and they're not funny, they're obviously not smart.
well,
And
you
there
say
are
that. You
people
say
that
that.
aren't funny that think they're funny. But in general,
You're right.
funny people are always the smartest people. That's why I'm
mm.
always attracted to comedy,
Well,
because you
look at
can do
George
more
Carlin.
in 60 seconds with the word salad
Oh
than
yeah.
you
Mhm.
ever could be trying to attack her.
Right,
You
right,
can just kind
exactly.
of, you're just like kind of bringing it up like this is because
Mhm.
everybody is like impersonates presidents,
Right, right.
senators, people that are out there, but very
Mhm.
few people can do it in a way that is that makes you slow down and follow every word. And then you realize, my gosh, the vice president actually said that.
Yeah,
It's not
She's
like you're
like,
yeah,
making up the stuff she's saying, right? You're saying what she's saying, and it's like,
right.
my God, she really said the only thing we know for sure about future developments is that they will develop, you know? She didn't
Yeah.
write that. That's my fortune cookie. But you start listening to this stuff and you say to yourself,
Right.
what does she have nothing meaningful to say? I mean, it can't be
Yeah,
that hard, right?
and she really she
she's
doesn't. She doesn't
hiding.
have.
I think she's hiding who she is.
Yes, I agree. She
I
speaks
think the
very
reason
differently now, right?
she plays it really stupid because
Yeah,
she's a communist. And
right.
if she's too herself, it's going to be too evident. The
Yeah,
kinds of plans that she has made for us are nothing that anyone is looking forward to.
right.
And now this running mate, I mean, this governor of Minnesota, oh,
Listen, this guy
he's
is
a great
actually
guy.
evil. Yeah,
I mean, these are people that are actually funding the grooming of children.
right.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, though, you just
I
said a
mean,
very important word, evil,
Yeah,
evil. Okay. You
yeah.
got to
I believe
remember.
that with my entire heart that
Uh-huh,
there is
uh-huh.
absolute evil running these people. What I just saw from this Tim Walz with his abortion rulings or legislation is anyone with a conscience, with a soul. I don't care. You don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to even believe in God um, for this to know that what he has legislated in his state is horrific. It's literal, actual murder. In
It is
everybody's
murder. When I got
sense of the
asked that
word.
question on the campaign trail, they said, "What do you think about abortion?" I said, "It's murder." Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I can't put any more, graphic words. But if he signed a bill though that said, "Hey, it's okay to kill your puppies,"
right. They
people
would
would
lose their
go
minds.
ape crap, right? And
yep.
Yes.
and it's okay. You'll get fined $250,000 in California if you kill a turtle egg. Okay.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, wait a minute, where's our values here, right?
Right.
And you're not really see. I think the globalist movement, especially with climate change, has painted human beings as scourges on this earth. We're not part of nature, they say. We expel CO2, which they claim is a poison. Without CO2, we would die. I go back to my biology class and think that, well, geez, we can't get oxygen without CO2. That's photosynthesis, right? That's how that gets produced. And but now they said, hey, that the stuff that you breathe is a poison, and so you're walking around, Suzette, as a poison, and you also have all kinds of other waste associated with you. You're just a stain on this earth. Okay. Now the people are saying that do the same thing. Okay. But you talk about killing a puppy, forget it, man. You'll
Right.
have people marching up Capitol Hill with signs
Yeah.
and everything else, right? Kill a baby, no big deal, right?
No big
I
deal.
think the
No big deal.
climate
Because,
change
it's
movement.
women's reproductive
Well,
health, guys. Come on.
Oh yeah,
well,
right.
think of
Yeah,
that
yeah,
governor. Wasn't
right.
it the governor of North Dakota or South Dakota who actually did kill her dog? She had a,
Yes.
Well, that
she
was
had
Christine.
what she
Christine, I
considered.
don't know where her brains
Yeah.
are to put that in the book, but
Well,
anyway.
Yeah.
I know, very unpopular, but she
But
makes a point that every rancher and every farmer has had to make.
but look
There
at
is,
the outrage on that. Look at
I
that's my
know,
point.
but
Right.
exactly, that's why I'm
Yeah,
bringing it up because
yeah.
they
Mhm.
came after her like she was, the
Oh, yeah.
devil
The
incarnate
outrage for that,
because she put down a dog.
right.
But if she had come out and said, "I've had 3 abortions,"
They would applaud
um,
her. They would applaud
they
her,
would have
right?
said,
Yeah,
"See,"
yeah,
and now she
yeah,
got to be governor.
Right.
She couldn't have done that if she had all those kids.
that's right.
Right.
That's
I
right.
mean, it's
Well,
kind of, it's interesting to your
Ronald Reagan said it's interesting. He said how
top of mind.
everybody who is for abortion has already been born.
Oh,
Yeah. How about
that's
that?
a good point.
Isn't that
Yeah.
Good
interesting?
point.
So,
Right.
but
Elsa, can I ask you a question?
Of
So
course.
this year, like since Christmas time, what do you think for you, like the top, like two, 3 things that have happened in your life that have just been
Mm.
extraordinary?
she met us.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, you guys, number one.
She met us. I
Number
mean,
one.
that's the end of the answer right there. Okay. I don't know what to tell you, Suzette. Come
That's
on.
it. There's nothing else.
I
Oh
know,
my
we're the
goodness.
top.
Yeah. So, boy, that, so that's the easiest. I'll have to go back a little bit further than December, because they would be excluding one of the greatest things if I don't go back a little bit. So three of the greatest things that have come into my universe within a very, very, very short period of time is three spectacular, beautiful, amazing grandbabies. My younger daughter blessed us with three babies in basically within 3 years. She had one right after the other. So yeah, so we have a 3-year-old, just about, she's almost 3-year-old, 1.5-year-old, and 4-month-old grandbabies. That is the light of our lives right now.
Isn't
And
that great?
they're in
Isn't that great?
Florida. So right. Oh, it's so
Grandkids are,
amazing.
I tell people, you don't know if they're first time grandparents and like, you're not going to even, you think you know what this is going to be like until the baby's born. And you trust me,
Oh my gosh.
it will be
Yeah.
totally different than what you think, right?
Yeah.
In a good way. But
Hmm.
so that was your daughter-in-law, right? No, your
Daughter,
daughter. Oh,
my
your
daughter.
daughter. I'm
Yep,
sorry, your
my
daughter. You
daughter.
have two
Yep, I have
daughters.
2 girls. Yep, I
Right,
have two
right.
grown girls.
And
And
Suzette, she had to file for government regulations because it's now considered a factory down there. So three babies and
yes,
okay, it's
yes,
an
they
actual
claim,
factory now. So she got EPA on
right?
her
Oh,
ass and all
Yeah,
kinds of
they
stuff.
claim
best
that
Yeah.
they're
thing,
done. But
the
yeah,
best
but
thing that the
yeah,
best thing that
it's
American families can do is have babies. So
yes,
kudos to
absolutely.
your family
Yes.
also.
So,
That's
so wonderful. That is such a tremendous blessing.
That's
My
great.
Christian faith is, relatively new. I mean, it's actually, you asked me a specific question. Of course, here I am stepping outside the parameters. But my Christian it's only approximately 2 years old. So, so I'm still a baby Christian, and I love the growth and the journey of that and the transformation in my life, which, I always say, people always ask, like, what's your testimony? What's your story? And, we're so used to hearing the rock bottoms, that people were saved, they were at bottom, and they were saved and their life turned around on a dime. And those are such miraculous, beautiful, powerful stories that I always thought my story was like, well, mine's boring. Life was great. Everything was good, happy as can be. No, real problems outside of normal things that everybody experiences in life.
Mm.
And I simply came to the realization that God has been calling my name for my entire life, and just patiently waiting for me to come to him. And he has put so many things in my path. He has blessed me with so much. And when you get that understanding that you did nothing to deserve it, like, there's nothing that I've done that makes more worthy than another person to have these blessings. So what do you do with that knowledge? You simply say thank you, and you decide who to thank, and you realize, well, it's not me. It's someone higher, greater, better and bigger than me. And yeah, so that has been tremendously life-changing. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I don't know. I gave you like four, I guess. The three
Well, you
grandbabies
know,
and
I would almost think that he has been preparing you,
yeah, I
you
agree.
know.
Hmm.
It wasn't like he just showed up 2 years ago, right? I'm sure you don't think that
Yeah.
either.
Yeah,
He's
he's
been
been here
preparing
all
you.
along.
All that
Yeah.
experience about being rebellious, all that teacher, that one watershed moment, all the other things I'm sure that you didn't talk about, has
Yeah.
been preparing you. And I think we're all being prepared for, greater things. We're all here to grow. We're all here to help other people grow. That's why Suzette and I do this podcast, because we just think we owe it to somebody out there to learn what they're not being taught. I didn't really learn this stuff in school. Most of this is all self-taught. And
Hmm.
the Constitution is 4,500 words plus long. I mean, it's not long at all,
No.
and it's easy to read, but then once you get into the details, it's incredible. It's an incredible document. But a form of government is off the charts brilliant, and people don't realize that they want to dissolve it, get rid of the
Yeah.
electoral college. They want to, they want to abolish.
They're
They want majority
communists.
rule. They want a
Yeah.
republic. They want a democracy, and they don't even know. I argued with history teachers about this, that they're the same. Okay, I swear to God, history teachers right up in your neck of the woods would argue with me that a republic and a democracy are the same thing. That's one of the cornerstones of our government. So, but God bless you. We need to have you back on, and if you're willing to come on,
Of
and
course.
I'd love to talk more about your other podcast or anything else you want to talk about.
I love it. I love it. I want to shut up more and listen to you guys more because you guys are both such an incredible wealth of information. And, it's for everything you just said, Mark, and you, Suzette, both of you. The things that you have a knowledge base on are, like you said, the things that are not being taught. And
Right.
it is so critical and crucial to know these things and to understand them. And I love how you have put two things together that belong together, the Constitution and God. And it's just incredible what you're doing. So I thank you guys. And of course I'll come back.
Okay,
Yeah.
and as you listen to these episodes, you let me know what you listen to, and then Suzette and
Yes.
I will have a quiz, and we'll grade you. And if you get out of hand, we'll kick you out of class. Uh, and no, only kidding. But yeah, please
Kick
do
her out.
listen.
I'm going too.
Yeah.
If you kick
You're
her
not
out,
Let's
allowed.
stick
I
together.
wouldn't even allow you in, Suzette. You're just a big troublemaker. Okay.
well, I'll get in. You won't be able to kick me out.
Are you guys okay with my sharing episodes over to social media? Can I share episodes and stuff? Is that okay?
Absolutely,
Oh,
Okay,
please.
absolutely.
good.
Oh yeah.
We
And
would
by the
love
way,
that.
I can send you the MP4 file because Scott's going to get it up. It will be published on, where are we, Suzette? The 15th.
We could do it on August 15th.
Yeah, it's going to be
Awesome.
out on the 15th next week.
Yeah.
We do two a month. We might pick that up
Nice.
once we get a little bit backlog. But we do two a month, so you'll be up next on the 15th. I think we just did Federal Reserve too, didn't we?
Yes.
So okay, so that's out already. And yeah, you'll be up pretty soon next week. And
So
if there's any
fun and
clips
awesome.
in
I
there,
mean, like your other episodes too, like all your other stuff. I want to share like more stuff
oh
over.
yeah,
Please
Just want to make
do.
oh
sure it was
yeah,
okay.
oh my
Okay, good.
God, sure.
Thank you.
Well,
Our
you know what I'll do?
YouTube channel.
I'll
Yeah.
invite you to the Dropbox file,
Oh, awesome.
and you'll
Okay.
get all the episodes. Everyone's in a folder, and then you'll be able to also pick up the documents that we use and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, no problem at all.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
we'll
Just
Thank
coordinate.
you.
My
I'm so
cool.
people call
excited.
your people.
Yeah, I love it. I love
It's
it.
an
I
Italian
wish I
thing.
had a team of people. Don't you wish you had a team of people
I'm the
to do the
people.
things? I'm the
I'm
people.
the people. Elsa Kirk, you are amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and for sharing the humorous side to this VP, which has been that's how I know you, as you're just very funny, very good at doing her. And it's a real lesson because you can't make that kind of stuff up.
By the way,
Yeah.
she's not
Not
the
to
only one
kill
that.
not to kill that comment. I know people a lot. You can't
She's
make
not
this
the only
up.
one that did her. Okay, I just want to say that. So sorry, I couldn't let that one go. I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, thanks,
Thank you,
Elsa.
guys.
I really appreciate it, and we definitely got to have you back. And I also got some people I want to talk to you about. Maybe you can come on your show. So,
I would love it.
so we'll do that. And let me stop recording, and we'll see you. This was episode. What did I say it was? 29, 29, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Constitution Solution, one podcast under God, where we hold that strict adherence to the Constitution is the solution to most of our country's problems.
You can find other episodes on our website at 1787solution.com, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and most other platforms. We're your hosts, Mark DeLuzio and Suzette Lawrence. Until next time, may God bless you and may God bless America.